everyone, the best teeth in the game here. Anthony Fantano, and it's time for a review of the new Flume album, Skin. This is the latest full-length LP from Australian music producer and songwriter Flume, the highly anticipated follow-up to his breakout album, breakout self-titled record that came out back in 2012, which is a little long to be waiting for a commercial follow-up, although in the interim between these two records there was a deluxe version of that debut album released with a lot of extra songs and features added to the track listing. And now Flume is signed to Mom and Pop Records, and this latest release of his has come with a mess of interesting features. Vic Mensa, Vince Staples, Aluna George, Raekwon the Chef, Beck, and Little Dragon. And Flume, even though his breakout LP, I wasn't that big on it, I still did see him as a very versatile producer, and he has had a lot of time to incubate his sound and this project, so didn't really know what to expect from this thing, so I just dove right into it. And this record is quite a mixed bag. But there is a central sound linking a lot of these cuts together, and that is Flume taking the heavy, lumbering, off-kilter grooves and rhythms of the wonky genre and trying to package them up with these punchy pieces of percussion and very glitzy, glossy synthesizers, and then topping these instrumentals with these singers and performers that have a very radio-friendly appeal. It's like he's trying to make wonky go commercial on this record, which in a sense is a pretty ambitious undertaking, basically lifting this very abstract and experimental form of electronic music that borrows so heavily from hip-hop and trying to make it palatable to an audience that usually listens to radio pop or club music. And aesthetically, I think Flume is on point. I mean, these tracks really do have the high gloss finish of a radio song. Not only do a lot of the singers and rappers on this project have a very wide appeal, but the smooth digital synth lines all over this record soar quite gracefully and beautifully over the very hectic percussion that hangs below, which is the case on tracks such as Say It featuring Low. Although I will say that a weak point of this cut is that the lyrics are kind of trashy, and this really isn't the kind of vocalist I would like to hear over this instrumental style. This really isn't the kind of thing that I go to a wonky track for. And I pretty much have the same issue with the song Never Be Like You featuring Kai, but in a way it's worse because the rhythmically off-kilter instrumental doesn't fully support the commercial songwriting style that the track is going for. When the chorus eventually explodes, the hook just feels really cluttered because the synthesizers and the percussion don't really, coalesce into anything that really backs up the refrain. The beats are just very sporadic and all over the place. The synths are sputtering and just not that consistent. The track glides pretty nicely into the following cut, Lose It, featuring Vic Mensa. I liked his verse on here. His performance was really animated, though I will say some of his bars were corny. Like when he said that he feels like Nagasaki, he's about to drop the bomb. I thought the production on this track was really great too. I like how all the synthesizers kind of meld together in this really psychedelic way thanks to the fat, oversaturated compression. It's moments like this that make me kind of wish this was an instrumental record. And maybe that's also partially because some of my favorite tracks on here actually are instrumental cuts, like the songs 3 and Wallfuck. These tracks, in my opinion, show a lot of growth for Flume as a producer. Previously, I thought a lot of his production was really bland, nondescript, and didn't have that much punch to it. On this record, some of these cuts are super clunky, heavy, they have a lot of color and character. The song Free is semi-obnoxious with its relentless kick drums that don't really build up that much tension against the swelling synthesizers, but still, I think Flume's instrumental game on this project has improved. If only the beats weren't paired with so many weak songs and nondescript singers. Now, there is a decent trio of tracks and features in the second half of the record with Little Dragon and MDNR and Aluna George. I won't say that these songs are incredibly bold or anything like that, but the vocals and the synths take a very dreamy, chill, easygoing approach, and I actually think this complements that choppy beat style that usually comes from WONKY much better than this glitzy, commonplace pop music with a forgettable singer. There are also a few filler cuts in the track list here, very, very short instrumentals that would be cool detours if the songs surrounding these tracks were really dense and satisfying, but many of them aren't. And then the cherry on top is the closing track featuring Beck, which not only is one of the sugariest and most unfulfilling songs in the entire track listing, but this is just one of another in a string of awful vocal features that Beck has been dropping lately. I don't get what the appeal is of this really soulless singing that he's putting onto these features. His voice has absolutely no personality, nothing really appealing about it, and then furthermore, Flume sort of manipulates his voice and sort of renders it down into all these effects, and I think Beck's voice loses even more of its character through that process. Again, just like with the last Beck feature I had heard this year, I wouldn't have known it was Beck if I hadn't been told. There were highlights on this record, for sure, but every good moment is balanced out by an incredibly lackluster or a barely tolerable moment. The album is just inconsistent and all over the place. I mean, maybe it might work for somebody who just wants to hear really glitzy electronic music with a kind of alternative flair to it, but anybody who's hardcore into WONKY or has been following it since its growth in the underground probably won't see as much appeal in this as they might in many of the classics that have come up in the genre thus far. Again, this just kind of seems like a commercial revision of a sound that's just been around for a while now. Hopefully this record finds an audience and Flume can continue doing what he's doing, because I do think there is potential in his work on this project. Again, I do think the production is better. It's just that the most commercial moments on this record, I think, just kind of weigh down the quality of it, to be honest. I'm feeling a light to decent 5 on this thing. Transition! And one more thing I want to say about this record is shout out to that Raekwon verse on this record. It had a pretty nice and interesting narrative to it if you're into that whole violent gangster rap crime family angle that Raekwon usually takes, and he injected it there pretty much as well as he does just about anywhere else. I do give him credit for that. Sometimes these rappers, their guest verses on these producer curated albums can be kind of lackluster, but it seems like Raekwon, you really put in work on that verse. And that's going to be it for this new Flume record. Those are my thoughts. Hope you guys are doing well. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it, everybody. Anthony Fantano, Flume, Skin, Forever.